Welcome to Slasher Sunday. So, as I'm sure you can tell, I am sick. I am not feeling well at all. But it's Slasher Sunday, man. I can't miss out on it. And I feel like I picked the perfect movie to talk about when I feel like shit. Because this movie is shit. And that is Smiley, which I got at the Dollar Tree recently. I'd seen it before. I remember it not being good, but man. You know, okay. I think what sucks about this movie so much is that I feel like there is good elements. Like, I think the acting from especially the lead and even some of the other actors in this are pretty solid. I think that the production value looks good. The film stock looks solid. The killer's mask is fantastic. I mean, one of my favorite masks of recent years. I mean, we don't get a lot of slasher films anymore. And what slasher films we do get, the masks aren't all that iconic. But, I mean, it's really cool in the movie. Although it's like, kind of, it's different throughout the film. So, like, when it's, and in here, it looks like the mask is kind of like a material. Like if you look up real close at it, it looks like it's like a sack, and then the mask is sewn together to look like a face. I don't know how the hell you'd see through this thing, but regardless, in the movie during her nightmares, which seems to be the only place where Smiley actually looks like a flesh-faced character. It is. It's flesh. But then in the other sequences where it's not in the dream sequence, when he's on the computer screen or when he's in the house or whatever, or she, I guess there's multiple killers, Scream style, they have this smiley face on, mask on, but then they have like freaking leggings, like pantyhose over their face, but that's been kind of torn apart. Like, why put that on there? And it didn't look like those masks looked like this, but it probably did, but they covered it up. So, odd. Pretty odd. But regardless, the flesh, like the flesh looking one, looks freaking awesome. I love the look of that, especially when it opens its mouth and it's like bleeding out the mouth during one of her dream sequences, which was featured heavily at the end of the trailer, which made it look actually pretty good, which it wasn't. One reason this movie fails, there's a few reasons why this movie fails, but one thing in particular is way too many fake out scares. I mean, I don't know if I've seen a movie feature more. Like, legitimately, I do not know if I've ever seen a horror movie feature more fake out jump scares, dream sequences, and friend fakes than this movie. I know of none. Off the top of my head, which I'm really sick, so I'm having a hard time kind of thinking and concentrating. But seriously, name a movie that has more fake outs than this. I'm gonna guess somewhere in the 15 mark, somewhere in that area. That's how many fake outs are in this movie. That's an insane amount. Like, 1 is unacceptable to me. 2 is outrageous. 3 and above is insulting. Like, I don't like them. But it depends on how they're done, of course. It depends on the music. It depends on the way it's approached. You know, yes, we've gotten some of them in the classics, whether that be, you know, in Halloween when Laurie bumps into Sheriff Brackett, but there's not music. Or when Sheriff Brackett grabs Dr. Loomis's shoulder, there's no music. There's no, like, heightened, cheap thrill thrown onto it. And then Friday the 13th with Ned's death, you know, when he's dying in there and then he comes up and all that. Yes, we get fake out scares, but as I said, they're done differently and nowhere near as much. This movie is insulting with the amount. It is really wild. So anyways, no, like, for real, like, I have it written down here 5 times in the first, like, 10 minutes. Like, I couldn't believe how many there were. It just kept happening. It wasn't a fake out jump scare. It was a dream sequence, which is a fake out jump scare. because it ends all big and sudden, and then it's like, nope, didn't really happen. That's a fake out. So it's bullshit. Every jump in this movie, outside of, no, I guess outside of like the last thing that happens, is a fake out. It's terrible, man. What a terribly dreadful film. And it shouldn't be like that. They got a really cool looking killer. The film looks good. And the actors are actually decent, especially the lead. As I said, I think she's actually really good. And she's gotten a good amount of roles after this. Starring roles in not bigger films, but like The Wind and something else. Another big horror movie that came out. When I say big, I don't mean like theater release, but it's got a decent amount of recognition, and it's because she's solid. It's just she's put in a horrid movie. And another thing is the logic in this film and the tonality. Like, their friendship, the main character Ashley here and her roommate, their relationship throughout this movie makes zero sense. Like, there's sequences in this where you think she hates her, and then the next minute they're like acting like they're best friends, and it has no real rhyme or reason to it. Now, you could argue because at the end, you know, everyone's in on it, but why would Ashley be so quick to change her tune? She's not in on it. So why is she all over the place? Now, I guess also you could argue that she's not mentally stable, but it just doesn't justify what the up and down version of their relationship throughout this. And that's kind of just true throughout the movie. Ashley's character is like super scared. She's on her edge. She's on the edge. She's breaking laptops. She's freaking out. She's going to the cops. And then the next scene, she's like making out with a guy. And then her and her friend are like, "Oh my God, it's so good to see you. Like, have a good weekend. Like, I love you." And she's like totally fine. And she's like going back to her and she's like talking to her dad on the phone, like, "Hey daddy, I love you." And it's like, you were literally having a mental breakdown not 5 fucking minutes ago. So what is this character? What is this movie? It's so all over the place. It was frustrating the hell out of me. And, you know, the chicks in this movie are very attractive, you know, and I've already mentioned a lot of other things that normally would be positives. And while they are kind of positives, they almost act as negatives because of the film they're attached to. It's like, there shouldn't be a reason why this movie is so terrible. They had so many good elements. It's just the director. The director was so self-indulgent with his desire to throw in jump scare after jump scare, but also to tell the story he wanted to tell, and to have this big climatic scene where it ends up being what it is, and that every single character essentially outside of the main girl is in on it. You really only can have fake outs, because no one really can die in the movie. So, but that being said, I mean, you can have a character die and it's actual, like, legitimate jump. I'm not saying that that's not possible, but throughout the film, they just keep packing it on because they don't really have a lot of avenues to go down with where the story leaves them in the end. So it's just, it's a piss poor excuse for a scary movie. And there's so many things that don't line up either. I know not to be too nitpicky here, but okay, who's recording these videos and uploading them online? Like, they're just uploaded to YouTube. Like, did that person record their screen? It was Smiley. He uploads them and puts them on the internet for everyone to watch, and then it's just some big joke that no one buys into. But, like, in the sequences where they're chat rouletting essentially with people, they then see the footage on the screen later. Now, when they watch the footage later, or I'm sorry, when the footage is revealed later in the movie, when it kind of comes back on itself after the opening of the movie, which I guess the opening of the movie, is that the chick from the beginning? Is that who that was at the end of the movie? I was trying to remember who the hell that was. I was like, I don't remember this chick. I guess that's the chick at the beginning of the movie. I watched this in 2 days. I watched like half of it yesterday and half of it today, so I kind of forgot about that chick in the opening. I guess that's her at the end. But regardless, it still doesn't match up. It still doesn't match up to what is being seen. And it doesn't make any sense the way the opening goes. Like the girl in the beginning is with this chick, this young little girl, and she's like legit terrified, and she's, you know, freaking out. And the girl, I feel like, remember correctly, the little girl in the room is the one that tells her about it. Yeah, she tells her about it. And then she goes on the computer and chat roulettes this guy. And then gets herself killed, but she's in on it? So why'd the little girl tell her? Oh my God, am I seriously seeing that big of a flaw in the movie? There's no way. I'm misreading that. Does anybody have a memory of this? I know I just watched it, but as I said, I'm sick, and movies like this, I start to tune out a little bit, but that's accurate. I swear it is. The little girl tells her about the lulz thing, and then she goes to the computer and gets herself killed, but then is at the end of the movie, right? That's her. But she was in on it? But the girl told her about it? How is that possible? I mean, that's the worst writing ever, if that's accurate. Like, legit ever. That's such a horrible plot hole. Please correct me. There's no way that's accurate. That all being said, when they line it up, when the guys are on the computer with her and the dude in the glasses looking at her and we're seeing the scene play out again, it doesn't match up at all. There's a long bit of dialogue between them before she actually gets killed, and it's like a 2-second thing. This happens in film all the time, so I'm willing to look past that, but it does annoy me from a continuity standpoint. Roger Bart is in this, and I really I like the sequences between him and Ashley when they're having their discussions of like philosophy and whatnot. I think that's some of the best stuff in the movie, but ultimately leads to what? I don't know what the message of that's supposed to be. That chaos is inevitable, that people are inherently evil, and that these guys are doing it for the lulz. Like, I don't really see how it I feel like it's trying to be intelligent, and it's trying to be witty, and it doesn't line up. Doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason in it. That being said, Roger Bart, I dig him. He's the same guy in every movie, but I do dig him, and I think his, back and forth with Ashley here works, and that's where I'm saying some of her better acting is. But it all amounts to nothing. It's all kind of like, okay, that was interesting, and it definitely seemed like he was hitting on her. I mean, he gives her a quick like, "Are you hitting on me?" And then, he kind of like feels it out, and she's like, "You're kidding," and he's like, "You don't miss a thing," like, and it's like, no, dude, he meant it. And throughout, he's just real creepy and really in her face, and she's like, "I'm gonna go," and he's like, "No, don't go." So I definitely think he's it, but he ends up not being part of it from what we can tell. So I don't know. And I find it weird that Ashley actually commits to typing it on screen and as I said, commits herself to wanting that person on the other end to die. She's like, you have to want it. And she's like, okay, I want to kill him. And she pictures it in her mind. Now, I know she's just kind of playing along, but that's a really odd thing to say, especially with how this character is. She doesn't seem like she's, kind of disregards humanity and is just like kind of a troll or, those kinds of things. She's like the good old girl. She's like the, the girl next door. It doesn't line up. I don't know. I guess she's just playing around. But as I said, her character's so all over the place in this damn movie. I don't get it. He appeared in a random guy's house. So in the scene where they're doing the lulz thing back to the guy, and then someone appears behind him. Now, this is chat roulette, right? So you literally just click on a next thing. Now, I know it isn't actual chat roulette, but it's something very similar. They're clicking on it, and it's randomly going to people's houses. Just random people. And then she types, I did it for the lulz, and then the dude's killed on screen. And then her friend is, she's talking to her friend, and her friend's like, oh, it was probably a joke. How could that have possibly been a joke? How could she have... There's so many times where they talk Ashley's character into nonsense, into stupid shit that doesn't make any sense. The odds that a random stranger online has a person in his room with a smiley mask on, waiting for someone to randomly type, I did it for the lulz on the screen, so that he can jump up and kill him. This girl's in college. Not that I haven't met some college people that are morons, but this is a different kind of level of moron. Oh yeah, no, it was probably a joke. How could it have possibly been a joke? How could it have possibly? It's so unfucking believable in every way. And there's stuff that they convince her of throughout this movie. There's like, oh, it's fine. And she's like, oh, okay. Really? Really? Like, okay, sure. Oh, God. The frat guys in this movie are so annoying, but they're supposed to be. They're kind of a different level of annoying. It's just, you want them dead. And yeah, I already talked about all that. Okay, another sequence. So she wakes up from her second dream fake out in a row. So like a dream within a dream. She breaks her friend's nose, essentially. Her friend's like, later in the movie, is like, I'm not bleeding. All right, at least you didn't break my nose or whatever. But she hits her friend in the nose. And her friend's sitting there holding her nose, bleeding profusely out of the nose, onto her bed, by the way. Onto Ashley's bed. And Ashley's reaction to breaking her friend's nose is so blasé. She's like, oh, what? What's happening? Oh, it's okay. All right. And she's just like, you broke my nose. I think you broke my nose. Oh, my God. I don't understand. No acknowledgement of her nose at all in that sequence. And the girl just keeps sitting there, bleeding all over her bed. Instead of like, oh, my God, and like running out of the room. And then when she comes out of the room, and the girl's still bleeding from the nose, Ashley's like, sorry about the nose. And she's like, it's okay. I'm sorry I yelled. Have you ever smashed someone in the nose and made them bleed? Like, accidentally, not like punching someone. I have. It's just, every once in a while, you're with your friends, you're being rowdy, you hit them in the nose. They're not like, oh my God, dude, I'm so sorry for yelling. I mean, it's like, they're in fucking misery. They're freaking out. They're bleeding profusely from the nose. Like, oh my God, help. And the girl should have been like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, all right. Then they go to the cops, finally, after everything that's happened. And then when she comes out, her friend's nose, from what I can tell, this is like the next morning. Maybe it's that same morning, but it looks like it's dark outside during this time. So it feels like the next day. She comes back in the car, and her friend's in the car. And she's still got something over her nose, and there's blood on it. And she's like, well, at least my nose isn't broken. Your nose is still bleeding? Like, on the car ride over there, during the entire time she was talking to detectives, and when she came back to the car, all that time, as I said, I feel like it's the next morning. Because when she wakes her up, it's like in the middle of the night, from what I could tell. She's still bleeding that much longer into the film, and she doesn't think her nose is broken? Based on what? I know I'm being nitpicky on some of these things, but it was just getting to me so, much in this. Keith David makes an appearance here. Poor guy. Fucking feel bad for him for being in this movie. And is the geeky dungeon master dude that she's like dating in this and kisses and whatnot, is he wearing a wig? It doesn't seem like it in the last scene, but throughout the rest of the movie. It's like a very 90s cut or like early. What year is this movie anyways? I feel like this is late 2000s, isn't it? 2012. Who the hell wears the Justin Bieber cut in 2012 as a college student? It's a really lame haircut. Anyway, all right. Hairdresser. Sorry, I just notice that kind of stuff. Silly. And you already talked about all that. Yeah, I like how she's on the computer with her friend after she's like totally calmed down after her entire freak out, going to the police, everything, and them not believing her, and then she's like, I guess I'm fine, all is well. Okay. So then her friend is like freaking out, and she's like, Ashley's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go to get Zane, is that what his name is? She's like, you need to check on him, we were supposed to fool around on Skype or whatever the hell. And she's like, okay, I'll go over there. And she's like, well, you shouldn't go over this and that. And she's like, oh, I'll have Dungeon Master dude come with me. And she's like, okay, I guess if you're having him come with me, or come with you. And she just like calls him on the phone, and he doesn't answer. And she's like, hey, call me back. And is like walking out the door while she's saying it, and then just goes to the guy's house and runs home. So you were gonna go with him? Like, you were already walking out your front door and walking over to the house without even calling. Like, when you call him first before you leave and be like, hey, can you come over here and accompany me to the house? Because walking to and fro the house is one of the scary parts. Like, yes, at the house as well, but going there, the killer could be out there. Like, you leave the confines of your home, the safety of your home. Aren't you supposed to do that with somebody? So why would she be leaving the house while calling the guy that's supposed to? By the time he got the call and got over there, she'd already be at the guy's house and maybe even home. Like, I don't know how big of a difference in length of walking. Why didn't she go to his house first and be like, hey, can you go over here with me? It makes no sense. Nothing makes any fucking sense in this movie. All right. And then she convinces her friend to write it on the screen, which I guess these guys have like jigsaw style brains where they can, guess anything that someone's going to think. Like, she gets her on there, and the guys are going to show up behind her and start attacking her. But they would have had to have known she was going to write it on the screen. And what's the point? That's what I don't even understand about any of this. What all ends up being the point? Like, nothing else is confirmed to be real. But then this girl ends up dying from Smiley, so that's their big legacy, but they all like kill her off screen. It's not even done in front of the camera. And like 4 of them come in the house, exposing that they're not one entity. And they all come at her at once. And then she just jumps out a window to her death instead of them killing her. And then they're like, oh, I'm going to take a picture of her dead body and put it online. Like, I don't know. Like, what's the point? They're the ultimate trolls? Okay, so then why didn't you catch it on screen? And what was the point of her thinking she killed the dude in the doorway? No one saw that. And if they did, they're going to have some issues with it because the guy's still alive. So why have her think that he's been shot and killed when it's not going on camera for the record of their ultimate trolling, for then it to not actually matter because that can't be seen because the guy's still alive, and nor does her death end up on film, but she's just scared in the house and then goes to the door and shoots, and then Smiley's in the background. But as I said, she's calling out his name. He's alive. Like, what? And the girl at the end says, we're not going to be known, right? And he's like, no. So they don't want to be known, and then they're leaving masks all over the campus so there will be copycats? For what? Because they're part of some like group, some coalition, for what? For what purpose? I don't understand. And then the big send-off monologue by the teacher at the end. I guess that's supposed to have some kind of relevance to it. Philosophically, metaphorically, I don't know. Doesn't really seem to play into much outside of what I kind of already said, which just doesn't work. This movie's fucking awful. It's just fucking awful. What a joke. What a joke. Please, tell me. So then at the end, Smiley's real? So at the end, Smiley's real? Or is she getting back at it? Like, is she trolling him as well, the girl on the screen? But she would have had to have known he was going to type it in that moment. What are the odds that she knew he was going to type it? Yet again, more foreseen shit. It's impossible. So who was that behind her? Was it the teacher? Could he have known? Why was he there? Wasn't she out of town? Was she really? Like, who's the killer at the end? The actual killer? They brought him to life? Is that what they're trying to say in the philosophical debate? Like, this is too much for my sick mind to take. This movie. Watch it. Go to the Dollar Tree, pick it up. Don't watch it. I'm just kidding. It's terrible. But if you've seen it recently, please elaborate. Correct me. You will anyways. Assholes always do in the comments. Which I'm fine with correcting. But the way you go about it, wow. Some people are gems. Anyways. So that was Slasher Sunday. Hopefully my illness didn't hold me back too much. I felt pretty good. I felt like I was normal. I looked like fucking hell, but sounds like the same old Sinister. Has anyone seen this movie? You shouldn't. But have you? Alright, guys. See you next week.